Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Brent Venables, the Oklahoma Sooners, kicking off fall camp. And look, I get it's early, but if I'm an Oklahoma fan listening to some of the fall camp feedback, I'm sitting here saying I'm hearing all the right things in terms of what I want to hear going into 2025. And for me, it started and stopped with this offensive line in 2025. And I ain't getting up here in saying that this offensive line has to be the best unit in the SEC. I think most Oklahoma fans who follow this program closely know, look, it ain't going to be the best offensive line in the conference. Can it be average? Can it be an average SEC offensive line in 2025? Because if you get that, people don't realize how dangerous this football team can be. What excites me the most is that we seem to be a deeper unit than we were in 2024. More guys are above the line than it was in 2024. And what I mean by that is in the 2024 year, I think Oklahoma trusted maybe 3 or 4 guys to play good SEC football in the 2024 year. Going into 2025, that number seems to be getting up to 8 or 9. And it's not like we have a ton of top 50 NFL draft picks on this unit right now. I think you got a few that could be in, like guys like Mike Fasusi. But it sounds like we trust the unit a little bit more. I want to start with that, talk about the names that we are starting to trust to play good football for Oklahoma, work our way down to some surprise standouts for Oklahoma starting fall camp. Before we get into it, as always, the Oklahoma fans, appreciate you guys, man. Especially with the boys being Michigan fans, it is going to be a very fun next couple of weeks talking this football team leading up into that week 2 matchup. The amount of support many of y'all have shown the boys been amazing. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And Dill, I'll kick it off to you. And what I want to ask you here, this is my theory. I'm in my own little world here. If Oklahoma is deeper on the offensive line than they were last year, does that mean they can be better as a unit in the 2025 year? Are you starting to have some quiet confidence that we can be just solid up front in the 2025 season?
And that certainly will go a long way because you said it. And even when they brought the transfer guys in last year, I think there was always that seed of doubt that was like, well, do you really trust Spencer Brown in the SEC? Do you really trust Michael Tarquin? It's like, I feel like you had seen enough from those guys to know that they're not really starting level tackles for good SEC programs, I probably should say. And you look this year, again, even the fact that Derek Simmons, I do think was a higher caliber player and he's got more tools. And you go back to that Western Carolina film, there are a lot of things to like, but the fact that you're hearing good things, to me, though, it's still about the development of Jake Taylor and Jacob Sexton and Logan Howland. Those 3 guys, especially Sexton and Taylor, those guys have shown me enough from an athletic standpoint that I feel like why isn't the light turning on? Maybe why aren't they playing more consistent?
Sure.
I know Jake Taylor and Jacob Sexton, for that matter, have been hurt, but I look at pure development from Bill B. What can he get out of those guys? Because there's enough blue chip talent in that tackle room. Those younger, those guys. I don't want to say young guys anymore because they're old enough where they gotta be dudes, but that's gotta be it for me, I think.
What excites me the most is, hey, Derek Simmons has come in and there doesn't seem to be a question about who your starting right tackle is. Derek Simmons has come in and won that job. Go back to last year, there was a reason there was position battles going into the opener. I don't think anybody really showed the staff that they could be trusted out there. Derek Simmons coming in and saying, hey, we don't really have a question mark about who's starting at right tackle going into 2025. That tells me I can at least trust Derek Simmons. Is he going to be a top 50 NFL draft pick? No, probably not. But more than we could say about the offensive line last year for Oklahoma. You're hearing all the right things about Ryan Foji, who got some first-team work with Fabechi sitting out on Friday. Michael Fasusi, he's I think you're too deep. I think he's going to be your second, he might be your third tackle off the bench for Oklahoma. And maybe even push a guy like Jacob Sexton to get on the football field as a freshman. You do have some young talent that is supplying a higher ceiling for Oklahoma. But what fires me up the most is number one, and here's another thing. Not only do we have more guys that we trust, it seems like we have a better feel for what our starting 5 is going to be. Go back to last year kicking off fall camp. We didn't have a damn clue what it was going to look like. And I think a large part of that because nobody really stepped up and showed that they could be the guy. You're starting to get that feeling a little bit more. once again, this is not me getting up here and saying Oklahoma's offensive line is going to be dominant. It's going to be elite. I don't think that's going to be the case. We don't need that to be the case for Oklahoma to win a lot of football games in the
Because you're
SEC.
right. You do feel like you have 3 positions now that are pretty much shored up. Like the right side of that offensive line and probably the center. I don't really get a sense there's going to be any sort of intense battle because like
Agreed.
Troy Everett, he's played well. Fubechi's played really well for Oklahoma, and Derek Simmons, like you said, has emerged. So again, you're starting to get positions shored up, and then and we'll see like how competitive that battle is and like how ready a guy like Howland or Fasusi is to challenge Jacob Sexton. I think it'd be big if
It
those guys
should.
ultimately prove like
That's
you
what we're
probably want
hearing,
to hear
though.
a battle there. I don't think you want to hear Jacob Sexton running away with that left tackle spot because that'd probably make me question who's behind him and how good those guys.
That's what we're hearing, though, and that's what should fire Oklahoma fans up. Is all right, maybe we can trust Logan Howland and Mike Fasusi. And look, inevitably, you're going to have to shuffle the deck. That's when the real problem started to happen. Like when guys started going down, it became a massive problem. Just musical chairs up front. There's a solid 2 deep that Oklahoma has this year that didn't have last year. That's what excites me the most. Something that I don't know how much breaking news this is, but like Jaden Ott is who we thought he was. I think there was a reason that Jim Nagy, and we said this a couple of days ago, everybody getting at Jim Nagy because he ain't shelling out money. Look, Jim Nagy ain't afraid to shell out some money for the players he likes. There was a reason that Oklahoma went out and got a guy like Jaden Ott. They think he's a stud. Coming in the fall camp, I think he got one of the better backs in the SEC. Javante Barnes emerging as the running back too. Dill, I was about to just sell my stock in Javante Barnes. In fact, I probably did sell my stock in Javante Barnes. There was a time where I thought Javante Barnes was going to be the next great for Oklahoma at the running back position. Injuries, disgusting offense in 2024 kind of put some water on that momentum. Maybe we get that from this kid. 2025. And Dill, why is it so important Oklahoma to run the football? They ain't going to be a team like Texas A&M that's going to run the football 70% of plays. But Dill, I mean, if you can run the football at a decent caliber and keep this Oklahoma offensive line out of those 3rd and 8 pass pro situations, running the football will take a lot of pressure off this Oklahoma offensive line and pass pro. And if you're Ben Arbuckle, you're doing everything you can to help out your offensive line up front in 2025.
And you are right because Javante Barnes, the way he could grind yards out as a younger
Yeah,
player,
man.
like, that's what had you excited. Like it
Yeah.
was just he's running physically, he's running through guys, he's running behind his pads. Javante Barnes, like he is the type of back that I think complements what Jaden Ott does really well. And Jaden Ott will probably be the playmaker. I'm sure he'll
Agreed.
touch the ball more in different situations, whether that's out of the backfield, whether that's in some option type stuff with obviously John Mateer. Like I look at Jaden Ott as providing a bit of that, but you still want to be able to play physically at times. And I do think Javante Barnes and
Yeah.
Xavier Robinson too. I don't want to like kind of leave
Agreed.
him out because he's a guy who can grind it out. But I do think that type of style is good to offset from Jaden Ott and what he's kind of bringing.
This rushing attack has the opportunity to be dynamic. Not only because you got a really good running back in Jaden Ott who can excel doing a lot of different things. And I'll say this, there's this like narrative that Jaden Ott can run behind his pads. I think he certainly can. Go back to some of that Cal film. Number 2, John Mateer, like outside of Lenore Sellers, there's not a quarterback that's more dynamic with the football in his hands than John Mateer. A lot of options for Ben Arbuckle to get creative in terms of how we want to run the football, which
he actually can, like, because I don't want to just like I don't want to assume like I've seen offensive coordinators like have the tool set to work with and then just not make it happen. Like
agreed.
Brent Arbuckle showed last year that when he's got a quarterback and he's got a running back, he is a really good
Yeah.
schemer of rushing attack.
Because
And I
it's
know
not like
people,
that Washington State offensive line was dominant last year, man. It's hey, we don't need a dominant offensive line to scheme up a run game for Oklahoma. Your offensive coordinator, not enough people. Everyone talk about John Mateer. Not enough people are talking about Ben Arbuckle coming into Oklahoma too. Not, in my opinion, not many better play callers in the country than Ben Arbuckle. Dill, Zion Kearney taking the step, man. Not necessarily a guy that I had on my bingo card. He's a box checker. Like, go back to how we talked about this kid out of high school, 6'1", 200 plus, 10-7 in the 100-meter dash, can win in a lot of different ways, whether it's working vertical, whether it's with the football in his hands. Similar to the wide or the offensive line, they didn't have enough guys they trusted in the 2 and 3 deep. Now, the amount of injuries that Oklahoma went through in the pass catch room was this. I've never seen a room get banged up the way Oklahoma did last year. We knew a healthy Deion Burks was a guy we trusted. Quite frankly, in the winter months, I wasn't sure how many other wide receivers I trusted going into 2025. Well, you heard really good things about Giovanni Gibson. When he gets back, I expect Giovanni Gibson to be a guy that can make plays. You're hearing the same thing about newcomer Isaiah Satania. And then you have a bunch of blue chip guys. Zion Kearney, Zion Reagan, Ivan Karen, all blue chip pass catchers that were true freshmen last year that maybe you couldn't trust enough to play a ton last year, but maybe going into 2025 with a lot more of a dynamic passing attack, maybe you can trust a little bit more of these wide receivers than we thought we could when we were going into spring practice.
And that is another position that, like, again, I feel like you have two guys right now with Deion Burks and Giovanni Gibson. I think, like, you even just pop on what he was doing at Arkansas Pine Bluff
Dude,
and then what you heard in the spring. I feel really good about kind of where they're at with
I
him.
agree.
Isaiah Satania, I'm ready to believe it.
Me
I
too.
think I probably need a little bit more proof, maybe in terms of
Fair.
production as a SEC pass catcher. But you said it, like, behind them, there's really not guys who have played any meaningful football. That is another position group that, again, you don't need to necessarily be 10 deep, but you probably want to be 5 to 7 deep. So that's like who are going to be your 4, 5, 6, 7 type guys. Like
And we
someone's got to make
we
that.
we might be getting there. Dale, we might be getting there. And that, like as Michigan fans, we understand. Like it's hard to evaluate your wide receivers last year. Like they didn't have a shot. Michigan wide receivers didn't have a shot. Oklahoma wide receivers didn't have a shot. Well, maybe some of these younger cats are a little bit better than we thought they were. Can I just I we don't need to talk about this because I think it's kind of a non-story, but I just want to get it off my chest. I'm on the message boards with the Oklahoma fans, and I see the comments in the comment section too. The tight end position. Are we going to be elite there? No, I don't think so. I don't think so, but I don't know if it matters. Like I think Oklahoma's elite at the positions that matter. You're elite at offensive play call, you're elite at quarterback. If you're not elite at those two, it's going to be hard to run an offense still. Okay, you got four tight ends. You don't really know which ones that you can trust. I don't go back to Ben Arbuckle at Washington State. I promise you, tight ends are not the engine of the offense, and they won't be the engine of the offense in 2025 for Oklahoma. That doesn't matter. If we're just solid there, it does. You could throw in a really good tight end in this offense. I don't know if it matters that much either. It's not going to be a very important position to this offense, and I think there are some Oklahoma fans, not all, but some that are making a bigger deal about it than it is. If you get solid tight end play, which I think you will because you got enough capable bodies, I think Oklahoma will be fine at that position. The last position we got to talk about, or last player, I should say, Reggie Powers. He gonna play, and it sounds like he's gonna play a lot at a lot of different spots. Go back to this kid coming out of high school. Would have been a top 100 national prospect if the position was more clear. This kid was a football player, flew around the football field, really physical at the point of attack, could create some turnovers, but you weren't sure what it was going to be. Is he going to get big and be a linebacker? Is he going to be like the nickel defender? Is he going to play safety? Well, it sounds like he's playing a little safety, playing a little cheetah. Oklahoma's fighting like hell to get this kid on the football field. It's not as flashy as talking about Peyton Bowen, not as flashy about talking Kendall Dobie coming back from the injury. Reggie Powers sounds like a guy that can do a lot of things for Oklahoma, and I trust Brent Venables to use him in a lot of creative ways to create some plays for this Oklahoma defense.
In that cheetah spot, I really would struggle to see Kendall Dolby not be there full like
I
most
agree.
times. He was so good. I feel like we're forgetting how good he was playing at that cheetah spot before the injury at Tennessee. I don't want to see
The
him moving around if I'm an
the
person. And
fact
again, trust Brent Venables more than me, but
I
Kendall
agree
Dolby
with you. I
cheetah.
would trust Brent Venables more than you won, but and I also agree with you. I also agree with you that it's hard for somebody to convince me that we should be monkeying around with Kendall Dolby. What does that say about Reggie Powers, though? We're monkeying around with Kendall Dolby to try to get Reggie Powers on the football field. It's telling me Reggie Powers can play some ball. That's what it's telling me. What I want to hear, especially as the pads come on. PJ Adibari, Danny Okoye, David Stone, as we get a little bit more physical in the fall camp, it's one thing for Brent Venables to come up there at the podium in SEC Media Days and say Danny Okoye, best athlete on the football field. I love it. I'm excited about it. there's a difference between being a great athlete and translating to being a good football player. It's kind of what we're saying for all three of those guys. And I look at it and say, hey, the best version of Oklahoma on defense is when you get some of those guys to step up. Who's going to step up? As the pads start coming on, as we start working our way into fall camp, that is, to me, one of the most important storylines to monitor if you're an Oklahoma fan. We'll pause it there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.